Welcome to Friday Morning Dharma on March 6th. Thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and settle into a comfortable meditation posture. As you settle in for meditation, you may find it beneficial, perhaps even inspiring, to bring to mind the image of a mountain. The mountain is balanced, grounded, stable, silently observing with ancient wisdom awareness, with ancient Zen awareness. The mountain is not Zen awareness, and it's not separate from Zen awareness. I'd like you to please bring your awareness to the exhalation of your breath and very gently allow your exhalation to be just a bit longer and a bit more pronounced than your inhalation. Please feel free to experiment with pausing briefly at the bottom of each exhalation. This meditation technique will allow both your physical body and your mind to start to settle and to rest, to become quiet and still. We can now gently transition into meditation on the inner body. Please be the silent observer of sensations that may start in your hands and your feet in the form of a tingling, perhaps a lightness, perhaps a heaviness, perhaps a pulsation. No analysis is necessary. There's nothing to figure out. Just be the silent observer of these sensations and allow a more awakened state of awareness to emerge. Moment by moment, phenomena are undergoing change. It's not that things change or that things will change. It's that things are in the process of changing moment by moment by moment. The people sitting in meditation right now are not the same as the people who sat down to meditate a few moments ago. Meditation on impermanence is an extremely powerful method for overcoming the painful and sometimes harmful mind of desirous attachment. That's because if you recognize that the object of your attachment is in the process of changing, dissolving, and disappearing, that means that the basis for the mind of attachment is also necessarily changing, dissolving, and disappearing. Please know this truth about wisdom realizing impermanence. If you perfect your practice of wisdom realizing impermanence, you will never suffer again in this lifetime. A monk once made the following statement. He said, "In my 20 years of wearing the robes of an ordained monk, I have learned this one fact: all that arises ceases. This I know." So now I'd like you to please just rest in the truth of impermanence. Please feel free to take as your silent mantra, all that arises ceases. Also, please feel free to conjoin your practice of resting in impermanence with meditation on the inner body. The person beginning this sentence is not the same as the person concluding this sentence. All that arises ceases. Please rest in this truth. Thoroughly examine mundane things or things of the world. If you do, you will see that none of them persist. None of them are capable of permanence. And in that sense, they are like dreams and magical illusions. Dreams and magical illusions are meaningless. Therefore, generate renunciation and abandon mundane concerns. Please gently redirect your awareness. Become aware again of this collection of parts we've agreed to label physical body, and allow your breathing to become less shallow. Taking deeper and deeper breaths, become aware again of your surroundings inside the room that you're occupying. Deeper and deeper breaths, becoming aware again of the world that exists outside of the room that you're occupying. Become aware again of clouds, of blue sky beyond the clouds, of limitless space beyond the blue sky. And we dedicate all of the merit from this morning's meditation to world peace. May leaders of countries who are at odds with one another soon come to recognize that nothing is accomplished with minds of anger. Instead, may they resolve their differences using minds of patient acceptance, empathy, compassion, and wisdom. And may we individually make the greatest contribution to world peace we can by resolving differences in our own lives using minds of patient acceptance, empathy, compassion, and wisdom. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. Thank you very much. So that little quote at the end, courtesy of Tilopa. Tilopa, one of my favorite lines from the Ganges Mahamudra. And I would invite you to consider what worldly things are. How does he put it? Thoroughly examine mundane things or things of the world. What constitutes a worldly thing or a mundane? Well, he kind of answers it for us. Is thoroughly examine mundane things or things of the world. So he's kind of saying that mundane things are things of the world or worldly things. What constitutes a worldly thing? I'll leave that for you guys to contemplate on your own. So we are moving into the third noble truth. You should attain cessations. If you wish to be free from suffering, you should attain cessations of suffering. And I'm going to read to you. My teacher is so so amazing. He is as he progressed in his life, his teachings became shorter and shorter, and he covers the Four Noble Truths in one of the last books he wrote before he transitioned. He wrote the Four Noble Truths in like 8 pages, 8 or 9 pages. Just the brevity is remarkable and so kind of condensed, so packed with insight. And he kind of leaves it to us to kind of do our own contemplations, um, kind of derive what we will from these short offerings that he makes in this book. I mean, How to Solve Our Human Problems. He talks about the Four Noble Truths, in addition to a more extensive discussion of patient acceptance as an opponent to anger. But his presentation of cessations is so short, I thought I would just read it verbatim from How to Solve Our Human Problems. The third noble truth is you should attain cessations, cessations plural, S on the end. This means that we should attain permanent cessation of suffering. Generally, from time to time, everybody experiences a temporary cessation of particular sufferings. For instance, those who are physically healthy are experiencing a temporary cessation of sickness. However, this isn't enough because it is only temporary. So the appeal here is for us to attain permanent cessation from suffering. However, this is not enough because it's only temporary. Later, they will have to experience the suffering of sickness again and again in this life and in countless future lives. Every living being without exception has to experience the cycle of the sufferings of sickness, aging, death, and rebirth in life after life, endlessly. Following Buddha's example, we should develop strong renunciation for this endless cycle. Curious, I mean, the quote that I read from Talopa also talks about renunciation. Develop renunciation and abandon mundane concerns. Renunciation, a deep topic, which we'll get into, I don't know, a few weeks from now as we get into the Lam Rim meditations. When he was living in the palace with his family, Buddha, who was then Prince Siddhartha, when he was living in the palace with his family, Buddha saw how his people were constantly experiencing these sufferings. Then he made the strong determination to attain enlightenment, which is the permanent cessation of suffering, and to lead every living being to this state. Buddha didn't encourage us to abandon daily activities that provide necessary conditions for living or that prevent poverty, environmental problems, particular diseases, and so forth. However, no matter how successful we are in these activities, we will never achieve permanent cessation of such problems. Curious, he didn't encourage us to abandon daily activities that provide necessary conditions or that prevent poverty, environmental problems, particular diseases, and so forth. Yeah. I looked and saw, when was this book written? In 2001. So here we are, 25 years later, and some of these problems sound familiar. Poverty, environmental problems, particular diseases, and so forth. No matter how successful we are in these activities, we'll never achieve permanent cessation of such problems. We'll have to experience them in our countless future lives. And even in this life, although we work very hard to prevent these problems, the sufferings of poverty, environmental pollution, and disease are in fact increasing throughout the world. Here's something that really jumped out at me. Furthermore, because of the power of modern technology, there are now many dangers developing in the world that we've never experienced before. Again, written 21 years ago, before things like AI, depending on where you come down on that, and other technological phenomena. Therefore, we should not be satisfied with just temporary freedom from particular sufferings, but apply great effort to attain permanent freedom while we have this opportunity of this precious human life. We should consider the preciousness of our human life because of their previous deluded views that denied the value of spiritual practice. Those who have taken rebirth as animals, for example, have no opportunity to engage in spiritual practice that alone gives rise to a meaningful life. And Geshe Kelsang here is not belittling animals. He's not doing this. No. Something that has been in my field a lot lately are animals, sentient beings, and how much we have in common with animals. You know, I'm reading this remarkable book, amazing book. I don't know, 7 or 8 pages into it, and I'm moved to tears every time I read it in the mornings, as I'm doing my Dharma studies. And it's called The Great Compassion. The Great Compassion, subtitle, Buddhism and Animal Rights. And as a sidebar, I'm not crazy about the title Animal Rights because the subtitle Animal Rights, because that's a kind of I don't know, kind of conceptual, maybe legalese sort of term. That's just my subjective perception. If the author was to ask me, Norm Phelps, if he was to ask me what the subtitle should be, I would say Buddhism and Animal Welfare. but that's just me splitting hairs over subtitles. But animals can be such powerful, important objects of beings of compassion for us. And Geshe Kelsang is not saying anything contrary to that in this book. He's just saying that animals have limited ability to engage in spiritual practice. Like animals can't read Dharma texts and they can't meditate on emptiness and compassion, wisdom realizing impermanence. We have those freedoms. We have those opportunities by virtue of this human life that we've been endowed with. This human life that is the product of causes that we created in previous lives. So I believe that the main message here is that we need to recognize this incredibly fortunate opportunity that we have and make the most of it. Making the most of it, attain permanent cessation from suffering, not just in this life, but all of our future lives. Attain liberation from samsara, achieve the state of nirvana. We should consider the preciousness of our human life because of sorry, I just read that. Since it's impossible for them, animals, to listen to, understand, contemplate, and meditate on spiritual instructions, their present animal rebirth is itself an obstacle. Only human beings are free from such obstacles and have all the necessary conditions for engaging in spiritual paths, which alone lead to everlasting peace and happiness. So important in that is he says it twice. He says it twice. And I don't think that's a product of absent-mindedness. Oh, I forgot. I mentioned that in the previous paragraph. No, engaging in spiritual paths which alone lead to everlasting peace and happiness. It's the most important thing, spiritual practice. So I think this is a really good opportunity for us to ask ourselves, since this thing alone, spiritual practice, since that alone is a means to experience everlasting peace and happiness, how much of a priority am I making spiritual practice in my life, in this precious opportunity that I have, this opportunity to attain cessations from suffering? The combination of freedom and possession of necessary conditions is the special characteristic that makes our human life so precious. So there it is, the third noble truth. You should attain cessations, plural. So that can mean, I take that to mean there's like ultimate cessation, attaining full awakening, right? That's kind of like the big cessation, if we can say so. But there's also like cessations along the way, like cessations from the suffering of anger and desire and jealousy and some of the other delusions that we experience, frustration, resentment being resentment, remembering to be angry. Yeah, that's what resentment is. So there are intermediate cessations, if you will, along the way on the path to permanent cessation. So beautiful, so clear. Okay, you guys, quick announcement, a couple of quick announcements. I'm going to be out of town next week, spring break. Some of you moms know that it's spring break is coming up. Um, so I'll be out of town, no class on Monday or Friday, and no Medicine Buddha a week from tomorrow. We'll have Medicine Buddha meditation tomorrow morning, but not a week from tomorrow. Don't worry about memorizing. I'll send an email to everybody to remind you, along with some links to some YouTube teachings that we have on Lotus Center's YouTube channel to kind of give you a little Dharma fix if you're needing it, by going self into withdrawals. over the course of the week. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And
Are you going somewhere fun?
yeah, I think it's going to be fun. We're going to Fort Collins, Colorado.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have fun. Goodbye.
Thank you.